الحمد لله الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه مباركا عليه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى جل جلاله وعم نواله نحمده ونشكره ونشهد أن لا إله إلا هو وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا ومشايخنا ووفقنا لما تحب وترضى من القول والعمل وجنبنا الفواحش والمعاصي والخطايا والزلل اللهم آثرنا ولا تؤثر علينا اللهم أعطنا ولا تحرمنا اللهم أكرمنا ولا تهنا اللهم أرضنا عنك وارض عنا اللهم أصلح لنا شأننا كله لا إله إلا أنت أما بعد وبالإسناد إلى الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى ورضي عنه ونفعنا بعلومه قال باب أنزل القرآن على 7 أحرف. Chapter on the fact that Quran was revealed in 7 ways. حدثنا سعيد بن عفير قال حدثني الليث قال حدثني عقيل عن ابن شهاب قال حدثني عبيد الله بن عبد الله أن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما حدثه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أقرأني جبريل على حرف فراجعته فلم أزل أستزيده ويزيدني حتى انتهى إلى 7 أحرف. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma reports, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Jibreel made me recite Quran on one harf in one manner, so I requested him and I kept on requesting for more and he kept on adding until he reached 7 ahruf, 7 ways of reciting. وبه قال حدثنا سعيد بن عفير قال حدثنا الليث وقال حدثني يقيل عن ابن شهاب قال حدثني عمر بن الزبير ان المسور المخمر وعبد الرحمن بن عبد القاري حدثاه انهما سمع عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه يقول سمعت هشام بن حكيم يقرأ سورة الفرقان في حياة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فاستمعت لقراءته فإذا هو يقرأ على حروف كثيرة لم يقرئنيها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فكدت أساوره في الصلاة فتصبرت حتى سلم فلببته بردائه فقلت من أقرأك هذه السورة التي سمعتك تقرأ؟ قال أقرأنيها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت كذبت فإن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أقرأنيها على غير ما قرأت فانطلقت به يقوده إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت إني سمعت هذا يقرأ بسورة الفرقان على حروف لم تقرئنيها فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله اقرأ يا هشام فقرأ عليه القراءة التي سمعته يقرأ فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كذلك أنزلت ثم قال اقرأ يا عمر فقرأت القراءة التي أقرأني فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كذلك أنزلت إن هذا القرآن أنزل على 7 أحرف فاقرأوا ما تيسر منه. سيدنا Miswar ibn Makhraman Abdul Rahman ibn Abdin al-Qariye narrate that they heard Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu say, I heard Hisham ibn Hakim read Suratul Furqan during the life of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So I heard his qiraat. Suddenly he was reading on many huruf and ways in which Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam had not made me read. So I was very close to jumping on him during Salat, but then I persevered and remained patient until he did his salam, finishing his Salah. Then I held him by grabbing onto his upper sheet from his chest and pulling him. And I said to him, who made you read this surah in the manner which I heard you read? And he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam made me read it like that. I said, you are telling something wrong, you are telling a lie, because Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam made me read it in another way from that which you have read. So I took him, dragging him, pulling him towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I said, I heard this person read Suratul Furqan on ways in which you have not made me read. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Hisham, read. And he read the qiraat which I had heard him read. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in this way Quran was revealed. Then he said, read, O Umar. So I read the qiraat which he had made me read. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in this way it was revealed. Indeed, this Quran was revealed in 7 huruf and 7 ways. So read whatever is easy for you. This is the hadith of today. أنزل القرآن على 7 أحرف كلها شاف كاف واف, as mentioned in another hadith. We are reading Abwabu Fadha'il al-Quran, and previously we have read Kaifa Jam'ul Quran, we read Katibun Nabiyya sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now we are moving on to this topic of Unzil al-Quranu ala 7 ahrufin. 7 ahrufin, ahruf is plural of harf, and harf means edge sometimes. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. Some people worship Allah on an edge. In the istilah of Nahwiyin, al-kalimatu lafzun wuzi'a li ma'nan mufradin, and وَهِيَ ثَلَاثَةُ أَقْسَامٍ al-ismu wal-fi'lu wal-harfu. A word in Arabic is something which is used for a meaning, and it is of 3 types: ism, fi'l, and harf. Harf is that which does not give its meaning on its own. It needs something before or after to give its meaning. Is called harf in the istilah of Nahwiyin. Now over here, ahruf is plural of harf. It means 7 ways, 7 manners, 7, probably 7 dialects. So Quran was revealed in 7 dialects. What is the meaning of these 7 ways? First of all, Innal Qur'ana unzila ala 7 ahrufin. Allama Jalaluddin Suyuti rahmatullahi alayhi says this hadith is narrated from 21 Sahaba. Abu Ubaid al-Qasim ibn Salam said this hadith is mutawatir. Number 2, what is the tafsir of 7 ahruf? Muhaddith Ibn Hibban mentioned 35 opinions of ulama kiram in there. Muhammad ibn Sa'dan Nahwi said this hadith is from mutashabihat. We just read and move on without going into detail of its meaning. Allama Jalaluddin Suyuti in Tanweerul Hawarik and Zahrul Ruba also preferred this opinion. However, most ulama say this hadith is not from mutashabihat, it's ma'lumul ma'na. We know we can interpret and perhaps estimate or guess what Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam is trying to say. Number 3, 7 ahruf is for tahdeed or takthir. There are also 2 opinions in there. Hafiz ibn Hajar Asqalani rahmatullah alayhi narrated from some who say that 7 is only for takthir, not for tahdeed. Like sab'una in tens is for takthir. So 7 in one numbers is also for takthir, not for tahdeed. So there are many ways, could be more than 7. However, number 2, most ulama say that 7 is for tahdeed, only 7. And one might say, well, there are other ways as well. We will say the answer to that is that they are qiraat shadha. From the qiraat ashara, the rest are shadh qiraat. 7 are related to mutawatir qiraats. So 7 is for tahdeed. Now what is the meaning of sab'atu ahrufin over here. First of all, there are many ahadith which mention this word sab'atu ahruf. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi has quoted two over here, one from Ibn Abbas, the other from Sayyiduna Umar radiyallahu anhu. Now, there are other riwayat like Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu also narrated this word, and there is addition in there, kulluha shafin wafin, also narrated from Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, which we just read. Sayyiduna Umar's riwayat over here. Another riwayat is from Ubay ibn Ka'b radiyallahu anhu, who says, I was in the masjid when a man entered and recited the Quran in a style to which I objected. The other man entered and recited in a style different from his companion. When we had finished our Salah, we all went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said to him, this man recited in a different manner which I object, and the other person also recited in a different way. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked them to recite, and they all recited. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam approved of their recitation. So Ubay ibn Ka'b said, in my mind, a sort of doubt and denial occurred which had not even occurred in the time of Jahiliyyah and ignorance. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam noticed how I was affected, so he struck his hand on my chest, and I broke into sweating and felt as though I was looking at Allah with fear. He then said to me, Ubay, a message was sent to me to recite the Quran in one dialect. I replied, make things easy for my ummah. It was conveyed to me for the second time that it should be recited in two dialects. I again replied, make matters easy for my people. It was again conveyed to me for a third time to recite in 7 dialects. And I was further told, you have got a seeking for every reply that I sent you, a dua, a supplication, which you should supplicate from me. I said, oh Allah, forgive my people. Oh Allah, forgive my ummah. Oh Allah, forgive my ummah twice. And I have deferred the third one for the day on which the entire creation will turn to me, including even Ibrahim alayhi salam. In the other riwayat narrated by Hafiz ibn Hajar, that this shaitan put some waswasa in my mind, Ubay ibn Ka'b says, and Rasulullah struck his hand on my chest, فَفِضْتُ عَرَقًا. I started, drenching in sweat. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allahumma khsa anhu shaitan. O Allah, repel shaitan and turn him away from Ubay ibn Ka'b. And all those thoughts turned away from me. It seems that in this hadith of Ubay ibn Ka'b and the hadith of Sahih Bukhari, Sayyiduna Umar and Hisham ibn Hakim, they didn't know about these 7 ahruf before this incident. They found out after this incident that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam was given permission to read the Quran in 7 dialects or 7 ways or 7 ahruf. Now, there are many other riwayats of the same. He said in one riwayat of Musnad Ahmad, added, whichever dialect you read in, then you will have done the right thing. Therefore, do not argue over the qira'ats. Do not dispute regarding the Quran. Hakim and Ibn Hibban. The other people were destroyed because of their disputing in their books. اختلفوا في كتبهم, in their books. So this is why they were destroyed. The Quran was revealed in 7 dialects. So read it whatever is easy for you. However, this is valid until you finish the verse indicating punishment on mercy, and finish the verse indicating mercy on punishment. This is valid until you don't finish the verse. You don't mismatch and cross the verses, then it will be valid. Now, we move on to what is the meaning of these sab'atu ahruf. Some ulama say these sab'atu ahruf are the 7 famous qira'at which we have today. For example, in Surah Fatiha we read Maliki Yawmiddin. There is another qira'at, Maliki Yawmiddin. In one qira'at, Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. In another qiraat, ihdina zirat al-mustaqim with za. So they say these are the 7 qiraats, different ways of narrating. Hafiz ibn Hajar mentioned that one thing we must remember is that it does not mean that every ayat can be recited in 7 ways. It means some ayat, some words can be recited in 2 ways, some in 3 ways. The maximum a word can be recited is in 7. There's nothing above 7 ways. Like Sawa'un alayhim a'anzartahum. There's 6 ways of reciting it. Sawa'un alayhim a'anzartahum, a'anzartahum, anzartahum, a'anzartahum, a'anzartahum. There are 6 ways of reading this. So some ulama say that these 7 qira'ats which we have are the 7 ahruf mentioned in this hadith. However, Hafiz ibn Hajar rahmatullah alayhi says that this is not right. Our Ustad Sheikh Yunus Sahab also says that this would not be correct, because Quran Kareem and its mutawatir qira'at are in this way. And Muhaddith Abu Shama has said, ظن قوم أن القراءات السبع الموجودة الآن هي التي أريدت في الحديث وهو خلاف إجماع أهل العلم قاطبة وإنما يظن ذلك بعض أهل الجهل. This is not right, because these 7 qiraat are part of one qiraat, one lughat, one harf. And the other ahruf, Sayyiduna Uthman Ghani radiallahu anhu called those mushafs to him, brought them to him, and he burnt them, and he said, don't read according to the other ways of reciting, read according to the reciting of Lughatu Ahlil Quraysh. So these 7 are not meant by Sab'atu Ahruf. These are all included in one harf. This is what many ulama have said. Number 2, some ulama said there are indication is towards 7 lughat, because in the Arab tribes there were 7 major qaba'il, and in the beginning when Quran was revealed, it was hard to force them to read in one lughat. Abu Hatim Sijistani says, نزل القرآن بلغة قريش وهذيل وتيم الرباب والأزد وربيعة وهوازن وسعد بن بكر. These are 7 tribes which were major tribes among the Arab Qabail. Again, Quraysh is the largest Qabila. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam is from Quraysh, so Quran was revealed in his language, in his way of pronouncing, in his dialect. But there were others like Huzayl, Taym, Azd, Rabi'a, Hawazin, Sa'd ibn Bakr. So they were allowed to read in their own way. Hafiz ibn Hajar rahmatullah alayhi says the reason for this is that the Arab different tribes, they are naturally from birth speaking in a certain way. Now to change them would be really hard. Like example, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu is from Huzayl, and the tribe of Huzayl used to pronounce ha with ayn many times. So Ibn Mas'ud used to recite فَتَوَلَّ عَنْهُمْ حَتَّى عِينَ instead of حَتَّى حِينَ. So he was allowed, because it's in his, so he can't be forced to change it. There were others who were elderly, small children, old women. Now we can't tell the old women to change their way of pronouncing words. So they were allowed to read in that manner. And many lughat and words were, according to their lughat, permissible. Now, when a person is not from the Arabs, he's not from these 7 tribes, he is non-Arab, he learns Arabic, Then Hafiz ibn Hajar Rahmatullah alayhi says that he will have to read according to the Lughat of Quraysh. And the hardship which was on those Qaba'il is not on him. So he'll have to learn Tajweed and he have to recite Quran properly. Hafiz ibn Hajar Rahmatullah alayhi says the other Qaba'il were given permission to read in their manner for three reasons. Number one, mushaqqat, hardship. Number two, the Qaba'il had hamiyah for their lughat, pride in their way of pronouncing. This is how we pronounce it, and we will pronounce it in this way. So Quran also said, old people are set in their ways, let them read it the way they want to. And number three, talabu tasheel fahmil murad, that it would be easier for them to understand if they read it in that manner. So Quran said, make it easy for them. This is what Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said in the other hadith, where he asked Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam to make easy for his ummah. Hafiz had narrated the hadith over here, that Jibreel came and he told me that your ummah should read Quran in one manner. I said, no. Make matters easy for my ummah, because in my ummah are ajuz, shaykh, and they can't read it in this way. I can't force them. So he said, okay, in two ways. And over here said, Huzur said, Allah said 7 ways. Many of these, this is the riwayat. Inni bu'ithtu ila ummatin ummiyin minhum al-ajuz wal-shaykh al-kabir wal-ghulam wal-jariya wal-rajul alladhi lam yaqra' kitaban qattu ila akhir al-hadith. So Jibreel Amin alayhi salam said, okay, you can read in 7 ways. So 7 ways is the 7 lughat, 7 tribes of Arabs, which were the major and main tribes. But when, as we understand now, if a person embraces Islam, he has to read on the lughat of Quraysh by pronouncing in that manner. This is what happened in the time of Uthman Ghani radiyallahu anhu. When Huzaifa ibn al-Yaman radiyallahu anhu was in Azerbaijan and he saw 2 people disputing, and he said, my qiraat is right, your qiraat is wrong. The other said, no, yours is wrong, mine is right. To the extent that one of them called the other kafir. They went into takfir. So Huzaifa was shocked. He immediately returned to Medina Munawwara and said to Uthman, Adrik hadhihi al-ummah qabla an yakhtalifu ikhtilaf al-umami qablahum. Protect this ummah before something else goes wrong. And you get various versions of Quran like various versions of Bibles. So Sayyidina Uthman also felt it. So he said that people should read on the lughat of Quraysh and forget the other lughat. Don't read it on that way. This is one interpretation of the meaning of unzil al-Quranu ala sab'ati ahrufin. Number 3, Imam Tahawi rahmatullahi alayhi, Ibn Abdul Bar al-Maliki rahmatullahi alayhi say that in the beginning they were allowed to use similar wordings. In English we have something called Thesaurus. So one word can be changed for a different word. So in the beginning they were allowed to use words like halumma, aqbil, udnu. So instead of halumma, if in their language they don't use halumma, they use aqbil, and they both have same meanings, they were allowed to use aqbil. So they both meaning come here, come close. So udnu also means come close. So they were allowed, they can change the wordings. In one riwayat, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that as long as you don't change ayat of rahmat with ayat of azab, or ending of Ghafurur Rahim with Azizul Hakim, if you don't change in that manner, then you are allowed to use different words in one place in replacement for the other. Now this was allowed in the beginning. Slowly, as time passed on, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam reduced that, and Sahaba also brought people close to the dialect of Quraysh. And then during the time of Uthman Ghani radiyallahu anhu, he gathered everyone on one qiraat this is the way to read it, don't read it anywhere else. This is opinion of Ibn Abdul Barr and Imam Tahawi rahmatullah alayh. However, it is their opinion, but Sheikh Yunus Sahib says that this is also not too close to the meaning. In perhaps the second meaning which we have quoted is from most ulama kiram. Ibn Jarir Tabari rahmatullah alayhi mentioned the names of these qaba'il, and also others also, Hafiz also mentioned that. You see, we can explain this in a way like we have English language. And English language has various ways of pronouncing. British accent is different, Scottish different, American different. Sometimes spelling is different. Some words are spelled in a different way. So one language, but various ways of pronunciation in your local native language as well, different areas pronounce in different ways. So among the Arabs, they used to pronounce in different ways. This is why Quran allowed the pronunciation in different ways. Like I mentioned, hattahin and attahin. Hafiz has mentioned some other ways of pronunciation here as well. Let me quote them to you. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Surah Furqan is mentioned here. Tabarakalladhi nazzala al-Furqan ala abdihi. In the qiraat ala ibadihi. وقالوا أساطير الأولين اكتتبها اكتتبها أو تكون له جنة أو يكون له جنة in the qiraat of A'mash and Hussein يأكل منها نأكل منها ويجعل لك قصورا is in one qiraat, and in the other qiraat ويجعل لك قصورا مكانا ضيقا is read in another way مقرنين مقرونون Suburan, in the other riwayat, is read as Thaburan bifathi tha. Yawma nahshuruhum, yawma yahshuruhum. These type of different qira'ats in Surah Al-Furqan, which Hafiz has mentioned over here. And Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu's qira'at, which mentioned there. So there are 7 different ways of reading which were allowed in the beginning, but then they were cancelled out and they were restricted to the lughat of Quraysh, and leave the other ways, read according to the lughat of Quraysh. Now Quran was preserved, protected, and alhamdulillah, we have it in front of us. Among the 7 qira'ats of today, Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiyallahu anhu gathered them on one lughat of Quraysh. And he sent 7 copies around to 7 places, and with every copy there were qurra who were teaching the manner of reading. We'll just go over the names of the 7 qurra. Number 1, Nafi' al-Madani, and his students were Qalun and Warsh. They were the 2 qaris who preserved this recitation of Nafi'. And Nafi''s recitation is mostly recited among the Arabs in Morocco and Aljazair. Once we were in Gibraltar, we went for Fajr Salah in a Moroccan masjid, and after Fajr Salah, they all gathered together in one long circle and read Quran Shareef in one voice. And those who are Hafiz, who are not Hafiz, they all recite together. So they started Surah وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوًا فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ أَمْرًا. Now they were reading in the dialect of Nafi'. قَالَ فَمَا خَطْبُكُمْ أَيُّهَا الْمُرْسَلُونَ قَالُوا إِنَّا أُرْسِلْنَا إِلَىٰ قَوْمٍ مُجْرِمِينَ. So when you read that different way, it was a deep experience for us. So Nafi''s qiraat is in those areas. He was from Medina Munawwara al-Madani. Then we have qiraat of Ibn Kathir al-Makki, who was in Makkah Mukarramah. Qumbul was his Rawi, and al-Bazzi was his Rawi as well. Then we have qiraat of Abu Amr al-Basri Ad-Duri and As-Susi were the two Qadis who preserved his Qiraat. Number 4, Ibn Amir Ash-Shami from Syria, Ibn Zakwan and Hisham were the two Qadis who preserved his Qiraat. And number 5, Qiraat Asim al-Kufi. And those who preserved his Qiraat were Hafs and Asim and Shu'bah and Asim. And this is the Qiraat which prevails today, Qiraat of Hafs and Asim. Number 6, Qiraat of Hamza al-Kufi. The two famous students of his were Khallad and Khalaf. And number 7, Qiraat al-Kasai. He was also in Kufa. Al-Layth and Ad-Duri are the two Qadis who preserved this recitation of Qiraat of al-Kasai. Now, the Asim al-Kufi, he sat in one place and he kept teaching Quran Shareef throughout his whole life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his way of Qiraat. It was directly connected to Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiallahu anhu, and today we read according to that Qiraat. The other Qiraat are also preserved, and there is a line of Sabah Qiraat where you go to a school, madrasa, Darul Uloom, you study the Sabah Qiraat from the Qari in various ways of reading, like وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى وَالضُّحِي وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى, like قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكِ النَّاسِ إِلَهِ النَّاسِ. So you read in different ways. You have to go to a Qari, sit with them and study from them. You can't mix and match between the Qiraats. You have to follow one Qiraat. And if you read another Qiraat, you have to read it in the old way. You can't read one word like this and another word like that. Like sometimes some people read Surah Fatiha according to Asim's Qiraat, but only one word they change, Malikin Nas. Maliki Yawmiddin. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. So, but if you read it according to the other Qiraat, then you have to read the whole Surah according to the other Qiraat. You can't just change one word. And also, among our fuqaha and muftiyan kiram, Mufti Rashid Ahmad Ludhianvi and Hazrat Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi in Imdadul Fatawa have mentioned that these Sabah Qiraats are just for the sake of preservation. That this is also a way of pronouncing these words. Otherwise, these Sabah Qiraat should not be read in Salah, because people will get confused. People will think, what is this? Maybe sometimes in a majlis or in a gathering you explain that today I'm going to read the Qiraat of Nafi', or today I'm going to read the Qiraat of Warsh. Then that's okay. But in Salah, the whole Ummah is united upon the Qiraat of Asim al-Kufi. That's why that is the Qiraat which should be read in Salawat. So this is a brief explanation. There is another explanation of Sabatu Ahruf as well, but I don't want to confuse you more. But what I understand better is that 7 different ways of pronunciation, Lughat of Quraysh and Huzayl and Taym and Banu Sa'd ibn Bakr, they were allowed to read in different way. Hafiz ibn Hajar said over here, as for the person who is a new Muslim and who can read and learn, and then فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَرَادَ قِرَاءَتَهُ مِنْ غَيْرِ الْعَرَبِ فَالْإِخْتِيَارُ لَهُ أَنْ يَقْرَأَهُ بِلِسَانِ قُرَيْشٍ لِأَنَّهُ الْأَوْلَى وعلى هذا يحمل ما كتب به عمر إلى ابن مسعود لأن جميع اللغات بالنسبة لغير العربية مستوية في التعبير فإذن لا بد من واحدة فلتكن بلغة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وأما العربي المجبول على لغته يعني المفطور فلو كلف قراءته بلغة قريش لعثر عليه التحول مع إباحة الله له أن يقرأه بلغته ويشير إلى هذا قوله في حديث أبي كما تقدم هون على أمتي، وقوله إن أمتي لا تطيق ذلك، وكأنه انتهى عند السبع لعلمه أنه لا تحتاج لفظة من ألفاظه إلى أكثر من ذلك العدد غالبا، وليس المراد كما تقدم أن كل لفظة منه تقرأ على 7 أوجه كما قال ابن عبد البر، وهذا مجمع عليه. This is how Hafiz tried to explain. There are other aqwal. For example, one, let me just quote this to you as well. Hafiz has mentioned this as well, that there were 7 ways of pronunciations. For example, difference in nouns. This includes the difference in singular, dual, plural, masculine, feminine. For instance, in one qiraat, there is وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ. In another qiraat, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّكَ. So kalimatun is single and kalimat is plural. Number 2, difference in words. Past, present, future, imperative, another. For example, in one qiraat, وَقَالُوا رَبَّنَا بَاعِدْ بَيْنَ أَسْفَارِنَا وَظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَحَادِيثَ وَمَزَّقْنَاهُمْ كُلَّ مُمَزَّقٍ. In one qiraat, رَبَّنَا بَعَّدَ بَيْنَ أَسْفَارِنَا, with the sigha of Madi past instead of Amr. This is the difference. The difference of placement of diacritical marks, that which shows variance in i'rab, which reflects variance in grammatical mode of a word and is demonstrated through the essential inflections such as kasra, fatha, dhamma. For instance, reading وَلَا يُضَارَّ كَاتِبٌ وَلَا شَهِيدٌ and وَلَا يُضَارُّ كَاتِبٌ وَلَا شَهِيدٌ بِالْفَتْحِ وَالضَّمَّةِ. ذُو الْعَرْشِ الْمَجِيدُ with dhamma on the dal, and Dhul Arshil Majida with fatha on the dal. Both qirats are allowed. Number 4, differences caused by addition and deletion of words. Like for example, tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. In another qiraat, tajri tahtaha al-anhar. Sometimes precedence of succession. Like in one qiraat, وَجَاءَتْ سَكْرَةُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ. This is mutawatir. But in the qiraat of Abu Bakr, وَجَاءَتْ سَكْرَةُ الْحَقِّ بِالْمَوْتِ. So this was allowed in those days. Differences caused by transposition, meaning replacing one word with another. Like كَيْفَ نَنْشُذُهَا ثُمَّ نَكْسُوهَا لَحْمًا. In one qiraat, نَنْشُرُهَا. And one qiraat, فَتَبَيَّنُوا. Another qiraat, فَتَثَبَّتُوا. In one qiraat, وَطَلْحٍ مَنْظُورٍ. Another qiraat, وَطَلْعٍ مَنْظُورٍ. So these are various ways of reading. Finally, number 7, the differences caused by manners of reading in tajweed. It includes tafkhim, tarqiq, imala, mad, qasr, and izhar and idgham, and other modes of tajweed. For example, Musa and Muse, Bismillahi majreha wa mursaha, Bismillahi majraha wa mursaha. So these are various ways of reading. In the beginning, they were allowed to read according to their lughats, but then this was cancelled out and it was restricted to the lughat of Quraysh. This is one of the meanings of this unzil al-Qur'anu ala sab'ati ahrufin kulluha kafin shafin wafin. Now, one might think that Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiallahu anhu cancelled something out and abrogated it. But reality is Sayyidina Uthman did not cancel anything out. He gathered everyone on one qira'at because he was scared of the ikhtilaf which could erupt in future, causing lots of confusions. So he gathered everyone on the lughat of Quraysh and said, read it in this manner. Little bit of ikhtilaf of the qira'at remained, but the lughat was one lughat, and that lughat was lughat Quraysh. This is what we can explain over here. This hadith, we've read it. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu says that Hisham ibn Hakim was reading Quran Shareef, Surah Furqan with different wordings. Now look over here. Hisham and Umar are from the same Qabila, but they were different reading differently. Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam had allowed them to read it. So Umar ibn Khattab got a bit angry and he was going to jump on him. Kittu usawiruhu, yani uwathibuhu wa uqatiluhu. I was about to fight with him in namaz, but then I controlled myself until he finished his namaz and he did salam. So I grabbed hold of his sheet from his chest so that he doesn't flee and run away from me. And I asked him, who made you read this surah in this manner? And he said, Huzur Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam made me read it like this. So I said, no, you're not telling the truth, because Huzur made me read it in another manner. So it can't be the both ways. So only one way is right. Both can't be right. You know, this is what people say today. Both can't be right in matters of moon sighting. They say one is right, the other is wrong. We say well, both is right. Over here as well, Umar said, you both can't be right. One is right, the other is wrong. So Hisham did not say anything. Now remember, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu was Qadimul Islam and Hisham was new Muslim. So Umar ibn Khattab was a little bit, certain that I am Qadimul Islam, I am from Sabiqeen Awwaleen. I've read this surah many times in the presence of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I must be right, he must be wrong because he is new Muslim. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu grabbed hold of him and dragged him to Rasul Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, I heard him read Surah Al-Furqan in ways which you haven't made me read. Huzur Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Arsilhu, let him loose. Don't drag him, don't pull him, leave him alone. And then when he let him loose, so Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Hey Hisham, oh Hisham, read. So he read the Qiraat which I heard him read, and he read it properly. He didn't mix much anything. Then Huzur Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to me that in this manner it was revealed. Now you read, Umar. So I read the words in which he had taught me, and he said, in this manner it was revealed. And Quran was revealed on 7 ahruf. Hafiz ibn Hajar says this means that these 7 ahruf were directly, they came down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you are allowed to read it in this way as well, and in this way as well, in this way as well. So they are mutawatir, both like Maliki Yawmiddin is from Allah, Maliki Yawmiddin is also from Allah. Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam read both ways. So both ways are from Allah. Allah said you can read it this way, you can read it that way as well. So فَقْرَؤُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنْهُ, read from these ways whatever is easy for you. And as we read in the other ahadith, do not argue, do not dispute, because disputes and arguments lead to fights and destructions, and we know where it can take. People call one another kafir, and then na'uzubillah, they go on killing spree and kill them. So these types of disputes and arguments should not take place. Leave it. Allah Pak has given us flexibility to leave that flexibility and keep reading. So this was in the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And Hafiz said slowly towards the end life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it was brought closer to the Lughat of Quraysh. Because Hazrat Jibreel Alayhi Salam used to do dawr with Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam every Ramadan. And in the year in which Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam died, in that Ramadan, he did dawr, repetition of it twice. So in that repetition, because Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was from Quraysh, so Lughat Quraysh is the one in which the dawr was done. Sahaba used to hear him in Salah reading in the Lughat of Quraysh. So they knew that this is the most preferred one, though that is the sort of flexibility, but Allah prefers this. And this is why Sayyidina Uthman, when he saw that various non-Arabs are now entering Islam, and if we told them you can read it this way as well, and that way as well, and that way as well, they get confused. So he said, leave the other lughat and read according to the lughat of Quraysh. This is why when writing it down, he said that Zayd ibn Thabit is from Ansar, and these three are from Quraysh. So if there is ikhtilaf between you in one wording, then write it according to the Quraysh dialect, because Quran was revealed originally first and foremost in the Lughat of Quraysh, and then the other flexibilities were given. So go back to the original and read it according to that. This is why Sayyidina Uthman Ghani radiallahu anhu restricted that to the seven lughat, to the Lughat of Quraysh, and they read upon that. And this Mus'haf of Uthman, as I mentioned, there are copies in different places, like in Topkapi Museum in Turkey. We visited that as well when we went to Turkey, Istanbul. And there is another one in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. And we went there and we saw that mushaf there as well. It's opened like this, but both sides are this thick because the papers are very thick. So half. So if you close it, it'll become double like that. So it's and on every page there are few lines, not too many, and you can figure it out the words that are written, because in that Mus'haf Usmani there's no dots, there's no vowels, no dhamma kasra. It's without anything. The Arabs were such that they could read it without any difficulty and without any vowels and dots and dhamma, fatha, kasra. They would read fluently. Like you must have seen the letter of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Hiraql. Min Muhammadin Rasulillahi ila Hiraql Azim al-Rum. Inni ad'uka bi di'ayat al-Islam. أسلم تسلم يؤتك الله أجرك مرتين فإن توليت فإن عليك إثم اليريسيين يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله فإن تولوا فقولوا اشهدوا بأننا مسلمون. You read that letter, there is not a single dot on there, there is no zabar zair page, no dhamma fatha kasra. It's written just like that. But they used to pick it up, they used to understand it. And when you have that habit, you can. So, Sayyiduna, you have to practice a little bit. You have to get into that system. Then you can read it fluently, even without any dots and any vowels. So, Sayyiduna Usman Ghani's Mus'haf, 7 copies. It's one of the copies is there, and we saw that. And inshallah, we hope to be going to Uzbekistan again. If you want to join us, let me know. 29th October to 4th of November, inshallah. The half-term holiday. So inshallah, we are organizing something for that time. Come down, you can see Mushaf Usmani there as well. As I mentioned, I'm going for Umrah next week, inshallah. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I won't be here. And after that, school and lessons will start. I will be teaching in Farnworth. And Salat has come forward now. So I don't think I'll be able to teach on Wednesdays. We'll see if Mufti Usama can do something. And maybe I'll come once in a while, inshallah, once a month or something, and we'll arrange something like that, inshallah. Okay. Jazakumullah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Allahumma lakal hamdu wa lakal shukr. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin nabiyil ummi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallim taslima. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna ma yanfa'una wa zidna ilma. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa 'amalan salihan ورزقا حلالا طيبا واسعا والشفاء من كل داء. ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم. وصلى اللهم وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين برحمتك يا رب.